Hi, this is Kelly with Giasitaliankitchen. I'm here with Emily, owner of the greenhouse. So thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. So this is part of our Girlfriends in Business podcast, and probably watching this on video as well. So we will post all of their contact information in the notes. And if you want to watch this full video, it will be on our YouTube and all over social media. So thanks again for joining, and thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you here and to chat a little bit about our space.
So first question, oops, let me turn these on together. First question is, when I tell people I'm going to the greenhouse, it's kind of a bar, but it's kind of a coffee house.
Yep.
It's kind of a hangout.
Yep.
And there's plants all over the place. It's the coolest space. How would you describe this?
Yeah, I think that's kind of exactly how I would describe it too. It changes, I guess, to whoever I'm talking to. But it is just like a space where you can come to feel kind of grounded again, where you can gather without it being just like just getting drinks at a bar. It's more about like the connection that you have with the person you're coming with. So like my daughter, I have an 8-year-old daughter, and she comes here a lot. We have friends that meet her here. We have a lot of families.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Families come. They play like board games. It's kind of more like a space for them to just hang out.
In a safe
space. But we also serve lots of cocktails,
right?
And wine and beer and coffee and all that.
Right.
So
It is so multifunctional. So we're kind of on the wing here that it doesn't feel like the bar at all. It feels like a coffee house. We've got beautiful artwork on the wall and plants everywhere, lots of sunlight, and you can't see the bar because it's around the corner. So it's like there's pockets of where you might feel different hanging out.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of the draw for this space in particular too. During the pandemic, this space was vacant for 2 years.
Oh wow!
So there's just nothing going on, and it was close to my previous job at Film Scene when I worked at Film Scene, and I would sometimes walk by this place and just daydream what could be in this spot. And it was also during a time during the pandemic where nobody was gathering, nobody was, going out in public. And so I would daydream about, if I had a night out, I'd love to go to this space, and I would fill it with plants, and I would do this. And that daydreaming kind of turned into, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to be very upset at myself that I didn't. And it's one of those things you kind of kick yourself when you don't jump, when you don't act on something. And it was like that because I was really jealous of whoever's going to take over this space and turn it into a cool plant bar. And it was like, man, if somebody does this, I'm going to be so jealous of them because that's what I would like to do. I'd like to surround myself with plants and kind of cultivate this really wonderful environment, especially post-pandemic.
It's soothing. It's very soothing and inviting.
Yeah, and it's kind of become that over the last year and a half. So.
That's so cool. So this really was where you want to hang out.
Yes.
And so you made it be.
Yeah. I know, and I say that too. I sometimes feel a little bit selfish because I just created the space to be exactly what I would want to.
I love it.
And then it was opening weekend. I was like, is anybody else going to show up? Will anybody else like to be surrounded by plants and hang out and this? Mm-hmm. But apparently they do. So it's been really fun to see even new people who come in, every week that have never been here before, and just to experience it for the first time.
So you opened in 2022?
Yep, September of 2022.
Okay, nice. Yeah. And you do lots of events in here too. There's an event, you have a potluck coming, but you have one of my friends, Erica of Touralura. So hi, she's watching out there. Does the candle pours.
Yep.
And so actually I've been here for one of the candle pours. And there was a wedding here? So talk about that. What are some of the other events or things that other people could either come and rent the space, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, it is very versatile, and that was another reason why I liked this location too. There's a whole room, which we're sitting in right now, that's kind of away from everything happening at the bar area.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice private space. And when I first looked at the area, I thought of this immediately as like an event space, or where we could do like workshops, or if there was like a book group that wanted to come in. And I have experience in just hospitality and like you know, kind of rentals and events and things like that from my previous job. So I think it was just a natural thing for me to be like, what other events could we do in this space? And again, people are just starting to gather again after 2022, and I thought this would be such a great place to get people out there that might not be comfortable going out to a bar or a restaurant yet. And this space just kind of is fit for that kind of person who wants to ease back into things and in a really comfortable way.
That's a good perspective. Yeah. So how has it been owning your own business? Had you owned a business previous to this?
Oh, this is the first time. So this is the first time I've owned my own business, and it was one of those things for me. I always wanted to own something of my own, and up until I turned 40, which is when I opened this place, I was like, it's going to come along. I feel like there's something that I need to be doing, but I just don't know what that thing is. And I've had a lot of friends who know what they want to do when they grow up.
But that's really hard.
It's so hard. It's so hard. But it's one of those things, like I was kind of like, okay, it'll happen at some point.
Yeah.
It was just that moment that was just like, this is what I need to be doing, I think. And so getting over that initial kind of anxiety about jumping in and starting my own business, it kind of felt easier when it was like, when I knew what I wanted to do. And I thought of other business ideas down the line, but they just didn't fit to like me or what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But this was kind of one of those things that I could see this being like my future, my career. So
that's so amazing.
Yeah.
A lot of people probably still don't know what they want to be when they grow up. So the fact that you like have that, like, well, it was awesome.
I know, it took me a while, but I'm glad that, and it was kind of 40. It was like that big pinnacle moment. I was like, oh yeah, I kind of, and with going back to like just being 2 years alone and having time to like kind of figure out what I wanted to do or fine tune my future or career, that was one of those like kind of pivotal moments where like I turned 40, I felt like I needed to do something different and just do something out of the ordinary. Plus it was just like, I think this kind of fits more in line with me.
I love it. I love it. So we are downtown Iowa City. We're probably, 6 blocks from campus, or not even that far.
Yeah, just right outside.
And we're right across the street from the new Pioneer Co-op, the downtown one. So this is just like an amazing location too.
Yeah, it's right next to the farmer's market. So during the summer, the farmer's market is right here. The street shuts down right here at the farmer's market. So it's a great location, and it's not super far into downtown. And you feel like really congested with all of the other bars and restaurants and establishments that are going on. It's kind of tucked away a little bit outside of downtown, which is also a really good draw.
But completely walkable from anywhere. And then you've got, I love, the first time I came, was actually before you and I had even met, the outdoor space.
Yeah.
Is it on that side too?
Yeah, we have 2 outdoor patios. We have a front outdoor patio and then the side patio that runs along the length of the bar. But yeah, it's really amazing outdoor space.
Yeah. And there's several tables, and you just, we sat in the middle of the afternoon. My friend and I had done some shopping, and then we had a glass of Prosecco, and it was just a girlfriend's afternoon, and it was just like, it was so perfect.
That's so perfect. And that's kind of like going back to like why I wanted to open this place in the first place, just because I really wanted to get back to those relationships that you kind of form and those connections that you make that are really important and really thoughtful. And that's also why I don't have televisions here in the bar, just because it is, when you go to a place, again, you're bombarded with screens all the time, and you don't necessarily all the time think that you have the connection with the person that you're with. If like there are phones involved, or if there's like something, above the bar that your kind of eyes are drawn to. But it's just really great to walk into this place and see everybody having their own conversations and connecting with people and getting back to like having those relationships. Which is again something that like during the pandemic I was afraid we would lose some of that. Like people wouldn't know how to have a conversation with each other. Like this was like not happening 2 years ago. So that and just wanting, especially for my daughter. I have a daughter, and I thought, you know, during that, I was like, is going out and socializing, is that going to be a scary thing for her? And I'm sure there's millions of people that thought the same way. So it's just really great to see people connecting in this space.
Love it. And it's probably different for different age groups of people that experienced COVID in a different way. Whether it's the kids who haven't really had a whole lot to say, this is what it was like before COVID.
Right.
And their learning experience and their personal interaction with people versus us, you know, in our older years, but midlife, whatever, and we're like longing to get back to what that was, but in a different way. Oh, I love that. Okay, so at the bar, you've got some crazy cocktails. Tell me a couple of your favorites. Where did those come from?
I fortunately have really awesome creative bartenders who kind of give each other ideas all the time and kind of have all of these really unique concoctions. So it's kind of like brainstorming together. Like seasonally, we like to sit down and we're going to taste the spring drinks next week. And so we're all going to meet together and workshop some cocktails, or we're going to explain to each other like what that would look like. So for example, like I have a list of like 4 cocktails that I really love that I think would be good for the spring menu, and I will make them and have my employees try them, and they might say like, that's not great. They might say, why are you trying to do that? Or they might be like, oh, this would be really good with like this liqueur, or maybe this glass instead, or maybe with this little garnish, or this little lemon twist, or something like that. But that times like 8 people, we sit around and do that, so we kind of have fun, which is really great. Our winter menu is one of my favorites that we've had. We have a lot of really just interesting concoctions.
You had some, at the candle thing, there were some very warm, not physically warm, but just like warming, amazing, like weird twists on a classic cocktail.
Yeah, we have like a white Russian drink that's more of like kind of like hazelnut and ginger. And we do some nutmeg in there, which is really lovely. So yeah, we try to experiment all the time. We really like to tie in, obviously, like botanical or floral theme whenever we can. So some of our original cocktails, like the Gigi, for instance, we have rosemary and lavender in that gin and tonic, which is
that's what I had. I loved it. It's so good
for folks. Or we use a lot of fresh herbs, thyme, mint. Just whatever we can get our hands on.
Do you grow those here?
We do in the summer. It's kind of hard.
It's hard in the winter. I know. I try.
I know. Luckily, we got a grant from the city to start an indoor garden. So we have like a hydroponic system growing. So we have starters for all of those herbs, and so we're getting those going, which is really great.
That's awesome.
So then we can have fresh herbs all year round.
Well, and some of them, if you had an outdoor space, some of them do come back in Iowa. It just depends on which ones they are. And then, because I struggle with that every year. Like, these are the ones that come back, these are the ones that don't. I'm going to bring them inside. And like sometimes, like the basil it doesn't like to be alive in the winter. And, so but then there's ones that I've got my thyme and my rosemary inside, and they're doing really great. But they're more hardy.
They're more hardy, and we have this garden out here. You can see out here we have a garden that we do a lot of rosemary and thyme.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And we have a mint. Mint just takes over. It's like crazy.
You can't kill that.
Mint in summer. But then when it comes to winter, we're like missing our mint plants so much because we can't just go out there and like bunch of but
make the mojito
all that. For sure.
So were you always like a plant lover? Like, where did this come from?
I think so. I think I just naturally assumed everybody had like 100 plants in the house. It was my mom.
Oh, okay.
Always had lots of plants growing up. My stepmother and my grandmother worked at an actual greenhouse. They owned a greenhouse in Muscatine.
Okay.
So I was always around plants and kind of just like, I just really find them to be very peaceful. And during this pandemic too, I collected a lot of plants and propagated a lot.
Okay.
And so it was, it might be an addiction to some, but it's kind of one of those things, like I kept wanting to like grow more and more. And I think it had something to do with just not being able to travel much too.
Sure.
And especially in Iowa, I think during the long winters, you kind of crave that greenery.
Yes.
So when you see that and it's gray and freezing outside, and you walk into a place that's just like very green and lush, it just makes you feel better. So I think that's kind of what I've always gravitated toward.
Do you talk to your plants?
Not a lot. I might say, what is going on with you? Or ask them questions, but I don't talk to them. Talk to their plants. I play them music sometimes. Or there'll be a station I play in the morning. I'm like, I think they'll like this station. But that's also, partially for me too. I want to.
Did your daughter have a love for the plants, or she kind of whatever?
She's indifferent. She's indifferent, and I think it's the thing. It's the thing that will probably grow by her too.
Just because it's around her, kind of just osmosis, it'll kind of become part of.
Yeah, and I think she really enjoys the different flavors of some herbs and that kind of thing. And I'll just kind of pinch a leaf on a basil or mint or a lemon balm and smell this. And she'll be like, wow, that's really. So I think she is intrigued by that kind of thing, which is fun, but she's also 8. Right.
So let's go back to your new business owner, you're a female business owner. This is your first business. I super high five. This is so amazing. Tell me more. Tell me about some of the hurdles that you experienced in that first year. It's only been a year and a half, I guess.
Yeah, it's been a year and a half.
Tell me some of the struggles and how you overcame them, because it's doing fabulous. But tell me more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never just an easy ride, and every day is a little bit of a challenge, and putting out random fires and kind of shifting gears all the time during the day. And I kind of thrive in that. I kind of do that to a fault, where I like to be really busy and making sure, so I would say just being prepared. I like to be prepared because then there are fewer areas where things just kind of fall through cracks. So I try to be as prepared as possible, but then also I try to be as flexible as possible too. Because if I have an idea of something or this process that I think that I've tackled or that I have down, and something goes awry and we have to kind of pivot and do something else, just the flexibility is really, what I've found to be really helpful. So you don't, get lost in the details. You don't get lost in trying to make everything perfect. But my bartenders will be like, hey, can you do this way instead of that way? And then I'll be like, of course we can. Let's pivot and do that. So it's just a lot of relying on staff too to kind of help with the operations. And just kind of, I luckily have a really wonderful staff, and they've always been really helpful in helping me just with everything around here.
So have they been with you this whole time, most of the staff?
We only have about 3 or 4 people that have been with us the whole time, but in Iowa City standards, that's crazy.
Really long,
All of
that's
us,
true.
so many people move away and graduate, and just with schedule changes, it's hard to kind of keep that even staffing situation. But again, everybody who has come through our doors has helped us out so much. And I've been really, grateful that we haven't felt that staff slump that a lot of other businesses have.
That is amazing, because I would say that's probably one of the hardest things when you're in a big company, your own business, your grocery store is having good people and keeping good people and keeping them engaged and trained and happy and like all of those things. Like that's really hard.
It's really hard, and that's probably the biggest challenge. But I would say like the most painful challenge is just more of like trying to figure out how to work with that. And one of the things that I didn't realize coming into this was just like how much they respected this place and how much they brought. And so I didn't realize that I'd have staff that like enjoyed this space as much as I did or loved this space as much as I did, which is so, wonderful. But it is kind of like a lot of the choices that I've made is to benefit them too, so they will want to stay here, so they will want to so they'll be invested in this business.
They're your advocates, not just your staff.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's one of those places. It's a bar that we close down at 10 at night, 11 at night on the weekends. But it's not a bar that stays open until 2 a.m. And then we have to deal with like everything that goes on from those.
You don't want that. You don't want to do that.
Nothing good happens after 10. And I'm just like. So I think they appreciate not having to deal with that kind of crowd. And then it just makes their lives, a lot easier. I've bartended in many places where I had to like work until 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and then I'd get home at 4, and then the next day would be shot. But it is a job, and it is a skill that you can always fall back on, which is nice. I've always thought about like that in my life. If something ever like happens where you can always go back to like the service industry and like serving or bartending or hospitality. So
that's changed a lot since COVID too.
It's changed a lot too. I know during the pandemic I wouldn't want to during those 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
Millions of people in the hospitality industry.
So speaking of that, do you have food?
We don't have food. We have a tiny kitchen that's not really zoned to be a kitchen. It's our storage space now where we do the hydroponic garden. But recently we brought in a business owner who owns a charcuterie business. And she's been making charcuterie boards and things like that out of here. But she also makes them for us too, so she can make charcuterie for us.
Oh, nice. Okay, so they're technically on your menu as they like a pre-built thing.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep, and so we're still figuring it out. It's a new thing as of a few weeks ago, so it's still kind of like we're trying to figure out how all that is going to work. But we're also just like bring in whatever food you want. So we get a lot of people who like order pizzas or bring their own snacks, and I'm fine with that. It's like if that's what you want to do, that's great. And it's also really great for if we do like host events. We have an event coming up on Friday with the university, and they're having about 40 people come in. They're bringing in catered food to this area, and so they have like a little catering situation that they do. So it works well for like events.
Because then they can pick it up. So another thing, and we can't really see this online or on the camera, but they have artwork on the walls made of plants, and it is so cool, and I forget what the story is with those.
So those were created, so Benno Ocampo, who owns Benno's downtown, Flowers and Gifts, he was actually really helpful when I first opened, when I was about to open this place. I wanted to make sure I had the right plants for like lighting, for just kind of like the area, and I reached out to a lot of places and asked them for advice, and just said, hey, I'm in the market to buy a lot of plants. I would like, maybe some assistance on what would work where. And everybody kind of just like, nobody really, we don't really do that. We don't do like indoor landscaping. We don't have like, and so, but when I reached out to Benno, he was like, absolutely, I will show you which plants will work in every area. And then he said, and for this wall, and he was the one who kind of told me about these pieces, the moss, the framed moss. He said, I have these framed moss pieces that would look really cool in your space. And so it was something where he just brought that to my attention. I was like, this would be so cool to have these over here. So
I'll take some photos and I'll put them, I'll try to paste them into the video because they are so cool. And they're alive, right?
So they're deceased.
They're deceased.
Moss.
Oh, okay.
And they're preserved moss. So they look, if you're looking at it, it looks just like a topographical.
Yeah,
like when you're flying, and you look down, it looks like
that's true.
Jungle.
It does.
So I really like them, and also Benno just last month did his first workshop here where you can actually make your own.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so we had about 20, 25 people in here that just were making their own little frame boxes, which is really cool.
That's fun. I want to do that.
You should. That was the first one that we had, and we had a lot of people that stood up so quickly, so we had a lot of interest in doing like future workshops.
That's awesome. So I know that we've taken up a lot of time, but thank you so much. This has been so. I just want to keep talking.
Yeah, no, I can talk all day, but I get, that happens to me a lot. So,
but tell me or tell the folks listening something that you would like either the residents of town, people that are coming in from out of town that are visiting, because with such a huge university, you've got tons and tons of out of town visitors.
Yeah.
What do you want folks to know about the greenhouse that we haven't talked about so far?
We've covered a lot. But honestly, I always go back to what I really value when I travel or when I seek out new interesting places to go. I really try to seek out those like small business owners, non-chains, places that you haven't seen billboards or just kind of the smaller. But and always me being a woman, and I always seek out like women-owned businesses.
Yeah.
And especially when you're a sole proprietor and that's kind of your thing, you're really hoping people will choose to come to your space instead of like the easy, let's just go to like the fast and simple, chain. Right. So I think I just love having people from out of town that come in and experience this, and I get a lot of great feedback, and I think this is a good place, and it is truly for everybody. It is a space where everybody feels comfortable. We have knitting groups that come in here and knit in the mornings, and then we have, people who come out for a few cocktails on like a Friday night, and they're just regulars here, but it is something, it's just a really fun, comfortable place.
I love it. It is so beautiful. And it is comforting. It's just such a great meeting space. So we'll post all the contact information in the post and how you can get in touch, how you can see more photos of the inside of the space. They're all over your website. We'll drive more traffic here. So thank you so much, Emily, owner of the Greenhouse, and Kelly with Giasitaliankitchen with our Girlfriends in Business series. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.